Hi guys, so a quick disclaimer. When it comes to spoilers today, the only one that you need worry about really happens right at the end of the movie, and when it comes time to address that, I will give you a very clear warning when I'm about to do so. So at the time of doing this video, Predator Badlands is currently in the cinema, but despite my best intentions, I've not been able to get down and see it. So last night, as a short-term alternative, I decided to watch Predator Killer of Killers, the other Predator film that we've had in 2025. We've been spoiled for Predator this year. Now, this is an anime. I don't usually watch that kind of thing. I only usually watch anime when it's a popular series that's dipping their toes into it. So in recent times, we've had a few Resident Evil anime films. Tomb Raider got in on the act, Terminator as well, and now Predator. But I wouldn't usually watch an anime thing if it was like a brand new franchise. Predator Killer of Killers is an anthology film. It's 4 distinct Predator stories from down the ages. So in terms of how I'm going to go about this review, I'm just going to take each segment in the exact order that they appear in the movie, and at the end we'll have a little bit of a conclusion. All the titles for these stories, by the way, have got really boring names like The Battle, The Spear, The Bullet. There's no title that's like The Curious Turn of Events That Happened on Planet Predator or anything like that. Really boring titles. But is the film boring? Well, we're about to find out, so put up the first slide. I think this one's called The Shield. It's basically Predator versus Vikings. So we've got a group of Norwegians turning up on the shores of Britain, maybe, and there's a battle that happens, and you just know that there's a predator nearby ready to take on the victors. Now, on a personal level, I really didn't need this theme right now. Earlier this year, I bought Assassin's Creed Valhalla for my PS5, which is essentially Vikings taking over Britain. It sounded like a good game, but the gameplay just got so monotonous and repetitive that my OCD sort of insisted that I finish the game at least. It took me 5 months, and I'd say 90 to 95 hours of actual gameplay sat on the PS5. It was a slog, that game. So the last thing I needed in 2025 was Predator taking on Vikings. If the Predator had turned up in the game, that might have spiced things up a bit, but alas, that did not happen. There's not much happening in this first story aside from cool-looking fighting. There's no characters or, journey that anybody's going on. It's literally just a bunch of cool moves, and that's it, really. A couple of things that I noticed. So the look of the Predator in this is not great. He's way too fat around the jowls, and he's kind of chubby and awkward looking all over, actually. One of my biggest pleasures when I watch any Predator movie is seeing the reaction from the humans when they first cast eyes on a Predator, and they're seeing this really advanced, technologically impressive space traveller, really tall, and you can just feel them getting really intimidated if they aren't already up to that point. But you can guarantee that that's not what the Vikings are thinking when they see the Predator in this story, because he just looks like an ogre. He looks really unimpressive. He just looks like some random monster that they have to put down. He reminded me a bit of the troll that turns up in the bathroom in Harry Potter, the first film. I almost expected one of the Vikings to shove a wand up the Predator's nose and be like, in this. But yeah, the look of him's not great. And to be honest, the look of the Predator in a lot of these stories is not fantastic, except maybe in the fourth story, which we'll come to. The other thing about this opening story is that the final fight takes place on an ice lake, which is very similar to the conclusion of Alien versus Predator. But other than that, there's not a lot to talk about. It's just a bunch of cool fighting. Next up, we have The Sword, and this one is kind of more of the same, really, except it's set in Japan. So we've got 2 competing human factions doing battle, kind of, and then the Predator inserts himself, and then there's lots of fancy fighting. The end. It's just the same as the first story, in other words, but with a different skin. And I kind of felt by the end of this one that the movie was in trouble a little bit, because if this whole film is just going to be the Predator fighting people in different ages, then I'm not really up for that. You've got to have a bit of variety in any anthology, and certainly this second story doesn't bring it. Now, there is one positive change, and that's the fact that there are humans alive in both camps who team up to take on the predator, because they just show a bit of human loyalty towards each other, a bit of common sense. So they find common ground, they put their differences aside, and they battle the predator. Now, that didn't happen in the Viking story because one side was completely annihilated by the time the predator showed up. So at least the second story is giving me something, I suppose. But one thing that happens in this one is that you get that unrealistic thing that can happen in anime sometimes, where people are jumping around and it doesn't quite feel right. The gravity of it just feels all wrong. This is one reason why I don't watch a lot of anime. I don't want to see somebody jumping in the air, for example, spinning around, shooting a bunch of guys, hanging in the air like magic and then falling down, that kind of stuff. I'm not saying that exact pivot and turn happens in this particular story, but there are some moments in this where people are running across the tops of buildings and jumping and stuff, where I'm thinking, yeah, only in anime. But certainly by the end of this story, I was at my most frustrated with Predator, Killer of Killers, and I was sat there thinking, okay, so what's the third story going to bring? The Predator fighting people in World War II? The next one takes place during World War II, but at least we get something different this time. So in this one, we get to see a Predator in one of their flying saucer type things, and it gets involved in some aerial dogfighting with some American planes during what I presume is World War II anyway, but it's not clearly specified. But this is something different. We've never really seen the Predator ships in action before. We've seen them flying around and landing and dropping a Predator off into whatever movie it is, but we've not seen their capabilities. We've not seen what weapons these ships have got and stuff like that. So I was engaged with this story. I liked it. There's lots of good choreography in terms of the battles happening in the sky. It's all cool. One little complaint, though, is that the end just goes on a fraction too long. So we get the perfect end, really. And then they just decide to give us an encore where the action carries on for like another 30 seconds. And it's really badly written, this bit at the end. Really unrealistic in terms of the physics. And I'm just thinking, you should have just ended it when you had the chance. And one more thing is that the main human character in this story just never shuts the hell up. He just insists on talking in his cockpit to like nobody but himself. I'm thinking, dude, you're not on the radio to anybody. Just shut the hell up so I can enjoy this action sequence. Honestly, he sat there and he's like, oh no, the Predator's coming in on my 7. I'm going to swerve now to avoid the missile he's sending my way, and then he'll swerve, and it's like, we don't need a running commentary of every little thing that you're getting up to. Just let us watch the battle. Just shut up. The fourth and final story is another one that feels very different, so fair enough. So this time we've got a bunch of humans who are taken to the Predator planet to fight it out. So there are similarities here to the 2010 Predators film, the one with Adrian Brody, except in that one, the humans were just dropped in the jungle and there was a bit more scope to it. They could go on this long journey. In this one, the humans are just dropped in this arena and it's all very here and now. It's like live or die, let's go, that there's no time to breathe. So there are 3 humans in total, and the rules of the game are that they have to fight each other, and then the one survivor gets to fight the chief predator in the final battle. So we're going with Karate Kid Part 3 rules here, as in the reigning champion has only got to have one fight at the end. It's all very unfair, if you ask me, but that's just the way the Predators have set it up. The creature design for the Predator this time is the best in the entire movie. I loved the way that the chief Predator looked, head and tails above all the other Predators we've seen in the other stories. But he reckoned without the pluckiness of the human characters, because instead of fighting each other, they just band together and decide to try and fight their way out of the arena, maybe kill the chief predator if they can, and get away on a ship. So we get this intense battle. There's some more great choreography, and I enjoyed all the action that happens here. There are a couple of random predators who get killed in really funny ways. I liked that. And it's all good stuff, I suppose. This is potentially my favourite story in the film. It's between the third and the fourth stories, and the first and the second ones are watchable, just a little bit repetitive for me. Now, I do have to address that spoilerific thing at the end. So if you don't want to know what that is, then I guess your time with me today is over. See you next time. But if you're not bothered, then by all means stay. So we find out right at the end credits that the Predators have been stealing all of the final girls and final boys from all the other movies and putting them into cryo freeze. And the idea is that they're just going to bring them out from time to time to fight in the arena. So we see Amber Midthunder's character in one of these cryo freeze chambers, and we see Danny Glover and also Arnie. Now, I hated this concept, the idea that you're going to ruin all of these characters' victories in the earlier films by just rounding them up later and kidnapping them. Yeah, not a fan, and as far as I'm concerned, it's not canon, unless this goes on to be a thing in future live-action movies, and I guess at that point we'll just have to accept that it is how it is, but I just don't see the point of having Danny Glover and Arnie in these. It's not like you're going to be able to use these characters again, because they're way too old now in real life. So it's like, what's the point of this? I don't mind Amber Midthunder being there, because she's still young enough to potentially be in another movie. If this turns out to be the lead into a Prey 2, where Amber Midthunder is on the Predator planet trying to escape or whatever, I could go for that, maybe. I just don't see the point in having Glover and Schwarzenegger there. I noticed that they don't have Adrian Brody, is that his name? They don't have him there, so maybe they just couldn't find him. Maybe he's just too tough for even the Predators to find and round up. That idea is kind of funny to me, but overall, this fourth story that you get, it's good, and certainly my opinion of the film was way higher after the fourth story than what it was after I just watched the first two. Right, it's time to get to the bag of terror so I can show you what score I'm going to give Predator Killer of Killers. So we got 1, 2, 3 Michael Myers carving knives out of 5. This is pretty good. I'm surprised that it ended up getting 3, given how I felt about it at the halfway point. But I'd say it's worth a watch if you've got Disney. It's probably a better movie than, say, The Predator 2018. And yet, going forwards, I think I'm probably more likely to watch The Predator 2018 than give Killer of Killers another go-around, because I'm just not massively into anime. Generally, I'd rather watch a mediocre live-action film than a good anime, if you see what I mean. So that's just me, but I didn't have a bad time with this film at all. So we'll leave it there. And all that's left to say is, please do follow me on X if you haven't already. My name on there is the same as it is here. Maybe I will cover Predator Badlands pretty soon, I hope. But until then, cheerio, bye-bye.